Nanzan, sometimes called Sannan, was one of three kingdoms which controlled Okinawa in the 14th century. Okinawa, previously controlled by a number of local chieftains or lords, loosely bound by a paramount chieftain, a king of the entire island, split into these three more solidly defined kingdoms within a few years after 1314. The Sanzan period thus began, and would end roughly 100 years later, when Chūzan's king Hashi conquered Hokuzan in 1419 and Nanzan in 1429. History. Nanzan first came into being in 1314 when Tamagasuku inherited the role of head chieftain of all of Okinawa from his father Agi. He did not have the charisma or leadership qualities to command the loyalty of all the local lords, and so the Lord of Osato, one of many powerful local chieftains, fled south from his home in Uraso, with a number of lesser chieftains loyal to him, and established himself in Osato Gusuku near the town of Itomen. Another powerful chieftain fled north and established the kingdom of Hokuzan, leaving Tamagasuku in control only of the central part of the island, which thus became the kingdom of Chūzan. Nanzan, like the two kingdoms with which it shared the tiny island of Okinawa, consisted of a minuscule territory, and correspondingly limited resources. Nevertheless, the kingdom survived for roughly a century, benefiting from sea trade, and from the advantageous location of Osato Castle, situated atop tall bluffs, with an inlet from the sea and its own dedicated dock. Though its ports were not nearly as active as Naha, the chief port of Chūzan, the kingdom enjoyed its share of trade with Southeast Asia, China, and other nearby powers. Chūzan entered a tributary relationship with Ming Dynasty China in 1372. Nanzan was granted similar commercial status shortly afterwards, along with Hokuzan, but was restricted to sending only one ship per tribute mission. Over roughly the next 30 years, 19 tribute missions were sent from Nanzan to China. Hokuzan sent 9 and Chūzan sent 52. Though these missions were meant to be limited to formal trade between the governments of Okinawa and China, it was not unknown for Nanzan officials, like those from the other two kingdoms, to engage in private trade and smuggling. Around 1381, a Nanzan envoy was severely reprimanded for bringing silver into China with which he intended to purchase porcelains for his own personal material gain. It is believed that, for a time, there may have been two lords vying for control of Nanzan. Ofusato, the first lord of Nanzan, presented himself to the Chinese imperial court in 1388, and died while in Korea. 10 years later, theories abound about whether the process of succession in Nanzan was a natural, peaceful one, or whether each successive king achieved his position by rising up again, in killing his predecessor. As a result, the true lineage is also obscured. In the 1390s, the kings of all three kingdoms died within a few years, and succession disputes erupted across the island. Similar events occurred in Nanking at the same time, with the death of the Honggu emperor in 1398. When the lord of Nanzan, Ofusato, died that same year, his brother Yafuso seized power, and sought formal recognition from China. Previously, China had only ever recognized one head of state on Okinawa, but now all three kingdoms sent envoys and vied for the prestige, wealth, and power that would come with China's favor. No response came from China for 11 years. In 1406, Bunei, king of Chūzan, was formally invested by representatives of the Ming court in his position. Taro Mai, king of Nanzan, received this honor in 1415, but quarrels within his royal court prevented Nanzan from ever gaining power. Following Taro Mai's death in the late 1420s, succession disputes further weakened Nanzan. Hashi, lord of Chūzan, who had conquered Hokuzan 10 years earlier, now seized the opportunity to take Nanzan. He thus united the island of Okinawa into the Ryukyu kingdom, marking the end of the independent kingdom of Nanzan. Notes: Kerr, George H. 2000. Okinawa, The History of an Island People. Revised ed. Boston. Tuttle Publishing. Some of the content contained here is derived from the Japanese Wikipedia article on the Osato Line. Cr.